Hey guys, I wanted to talk to you about morality again, but I wanted to talk about it on a different point of view. Um, when I talked about morality before, it was mainly about how unless there is an authority to give a standard which to measure against good or evil, that there couldn't be any good or evil. If there's no standard to measure it against, there's no good or evil. If there's no law to to say that you can't go or drive over a certain speed limit, there's no law to say you can't steal from a convenience store or whatever. If there's no law or no standard, then there's no violation of a law, which means there's nothing you're doing wrong. So there has to be a law, a moral law, if you're talking about morality, to be set in place already, you know, before you even were born. There has to have been a law to set in place, an objective law, something that's not your opinion or anybody else's opinion, but something that is above your opinion and from an authority above you. There has to be that standard there in order for there to be a real objective moral good and evil. People like to argue against God because there's evil in the world, but really there wouldn't be anything wrong or evil if if we are here by accident. If we are just the product of random mutation, coming from random particles. Randomness, you don't get morality from random particles. You may possibly get subjective morality, but subjective morality comes to a dead end, because if this group of people thinks this is wrong, whatever it is, this group of people might think, well, it's not that wrong. It's kind of wrong, but it's not completely wrong. And then a third group of people might say, no, it's completely wrong. So you've got all these different opinions. There's no objective grounds or standard to base anything against. So, that'd be like having 4 or 5 different governments all telling you that different things are okay to do and different things are not okay to do. Which one do you follow? There's no objective standard there. So that was the main argument. But here's one more thing I want to bring into the mix about morality and why without God there is no real morality. And that is us, people. On the atheistic point of view, there's no soul. I've never heard of an atheist that believed in a soul or spiritual things. Most atheists are naturalists or materialists. They only believe in nature or material things. It comes down to particles, atoms, molecules, all that stuff. So if we are fundamentally just particles and molecules and atoms, or brain cells or body cells or skin cells, whatever it may be, if we are fundamentally just material, then first of all, we have no intentionality, no real intentionality. We are predetermined. Why? Because, well, what determines our physical self? If we are only physical, then we have to ask what determines our physical self. And that would be the DNA. Okay? The DNA determines our physical self. Our complete physical self is determined by the DNA. DNA is just a program, right? I mean, I don't understand it fully, and I don't think anybody does, but I know there's people out there that understand it better than I do. But fundamentally, it's a I don't know, you want to call it a blueprint or whatever you want to call it, but it gives the information, that makes us who we are physically. So whatever you believe about that, I'm sure some guys can school me on DNA, but bottom line is if we are only physical and we're predetermined by our DNA, then we don't really have a will to choose to do good or evil, do we? There is no way you can get intentionality out of moving particles, because fundamentally that's what we would be on an atheistic, naturalistic point of view, is moving particles. Predetermined, our shape or our structure would be predetermined by our DNA. So there's no intentionality to do good or evil. If I put a gun to your head and I said do good, and I said, you know, help that woman with her child, you would be doing it because I'm forcing you to do it, but that's not really you doing good. You're just being forced to do something. Or if I force you to do evil, if I force you to do something bad, I'm putting a gun to your head. I mean, you know, metaphorically, or not really, but if I force you to do bad, you wouldn't really be doing bad either. So if I'm your DNA and I'm forcing you to do these things because I'm predetermining what you're doing, I'm determining what you're doing, you're not doing good or evil. There is no good or evil. It would be like if I invented 1,000 robots, but I made each of them different. But I intentionally made each of them different. Even if I didn't intentionally do it, if I just made them different unintentionally, it doesn't matter. You put them all those 1,000 robots in a room, and then you witness it, what's going on. Maybe you would see, you know, certain robots helping other robots with other things, and then other robots on this side would be killing each other and beating each other up. You couldn't say there's anything evil or good going on in that room. You could only say that there's moving particles. There's moving things. And that's about it. There's no good or evil, you know. Even though I made them, there's no good or evil. So you still have to have intentionality. You have to have God to give a standard of what's right and wrong. Absolutely. But you also have to have a soul, or something that transcends the physical body, something that's not the physical body. You know, something that's like a soul, so that the person or the person living in that body can have real intentionality. If there's no intentionality to do anything, then there's no good or evil done, because it's just a robot doing whatever. You know, you would never say a computer did anything wrong by it crashing on you, or that it did anything right by sending you an email that you won $1 million. It's just doing stuff because it's supposed to do stuff. It was programmed that way. It was designed that way. So moving particles will never have intentionality. Only spiritual things can, because when you talk about spiritual things, you're actually referring to something transcendent to the physical. So that is another reason why you cannot have good or evil on the atheistic point of view. Not just because there's no standard, because there's no God in that point of view, but because there's no soul. Therefore, there's no intentional act done by anybody. We feel that we are intentional in our acts, and that's why we feel like it's justifiable to say that, you know, we do good or we do evil. But if you think about it, and I hope you think about it deep enough, that if there is no soul, if all we are is material, moving particles, atoms, molecules, cells, just building blocks, if that's all we are, how could you get intentionality out of that? At the most and at the best, you would have a very functional, very highly sophisticated machine or robot. But anybody who understands mechanics know that even machines, all they are is the moving parts. You can get more complex with them and more fine-tuned, but fundamentally they're just moving parts. They have no intentionality. They have no will to choose. And therefore, on that point of view, if that's all we are, we can do no good nor evil, because we don't even have a choice to do it. Alright, that's all I want to say. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Alright, bye.